Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, joined by Sean Zerillo to look at the Thursday playoff slate. We do have a pair of Game 4s, both in the National League. Crazy Wednesday, our last big mega Wednesday of the season ended with just one team advancing. The Blue Jays took care of the Yankees to advance to the ALCS. I believe that starts on Sunday. In the National League, the Phillies survived, the Cubs survived, so we have their Game 4s tonight. Tomorrow we will have Game 5 in Seattle between the Mariners and Tigers. So let's get right into it. It was, again, a crazy Wednesday. Some really tough losses, some big wins. But we'll start with Phillies Dodgers. We have Christopher Sanchez taking on Tyler Glasnow in that one. And the Dodgers are favored here, again, to advance to the NLCS. Sean, I think you said a couple days ago that you probably wouldn't mark the Dodgers as underdogs in any game the rest of the postseason as far as they go. Minus 132 Dodgers. Phillies behind Sanchez, who's likely to finish second in the NL Cy Young race. They're plus 108. Total dead even 8 right now at DraftKings. Sean, I want to ask you off the top. We've got a couple bets for this game, but you talked about looking for an opportune time to buy back into Dodgers futures. You basically said, let's wait for another loss, get a little bit better price. They lost last night. What are you seeing in the futures market with the Dodgers right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're basically back to where they were initially before Game 3, which is roughly 2-1 to win the World Series, minus 105 to win the NL pennant. I should say they're back to where they were after Game 1, not after where they were after Game 2. They're back to where they were with a 1-game series lead, which is roughly a 2-1 World Series and minus 105 to win the NL pennant. They were as high as, I believe, minus 170 to win the NL before Game 3. So they've dropped down from roughly minus 170. They were about plus 160 to win the World Series before Game 3 with a 2-0 lead. So they've only gone up from plus 160 to plus 200 World Series. They've gone down, though, from minus 170 to even money, minus 105 for the NL pennant. So I thought there was a bigger edge, World Series versus pennant, before last game. I think there's a bigger edge, pennant versus World Series now. Happy to jump on minus 105 NL pennant. It's really a risk tolerance thing at this point and how much you believe in the Dodgers at this point. The math says there's a ton of edge on them because their average consensus projections right now, plus 157 World Series, minus 134 for NL pennant. Every projection has them between minus 124 at low and minus 156 to win the National League at this point. So compared to consensus odds, that's about a 6.5% edge, 6% edge. Their World Series odds, again, average plus 157, range of plus 187 to plus 122. So every single projection out there thinks they are a value bet, both for the World Series and for the NL pennant right now. Actually shows series value, too, on both the Brewers and the Dodgers. If you want to parlay those two lines together, they're about minus 320 and minus 340. You can get a parlay right now of about minus 141 on those teams to advance. My fair odds are about minus 161. If you bet either of those individually, you're not going to get as big of an edge as you will betting them together in a parlay. That is where we talk about parlays actually being plus EV and compounding your edges together. Because if you bet either of those individually, you're looking at an edge of 2%, 1.5% if you combine them at that minus 161 projected line and bet them at minus 141, you can get an edge of as much as 3.1%. So compounding that edge, parlaying the Dodgers and Brewers together, both to advance at this stage, I think is a plus EV play. But I would just rather personally have the Dodgers in a bigger bet. I already have, I think, plus 320 and plus 275 I gave out on Dodgers NL pennant. So we're trying to position ourselves to win as much as we can on the pennant. That way, if the Mariners and Dodgers make the World Series together, we're not taking too much out of the till on either one of those teams. So I'd probably go a unit Dodgers NL pennant, half a unit World Series, or half a unit and a quarter of a unit, double your bet pennant versus World Series at this stage. And then if you want a small parlay on that Brewers Dodgers series price line at the moment, I would go a quarter unit or a half a unit on that. So again, it's a risk tolerance thing. I don't know if I want to be sweating 3 units worth of Dodgers futures tonight when I could potentially get a better number tomorrow. I think sweating an additional unit and 2 units total is a little bit more comfortable for me than sweating 3 units outright in addition to the bet that I give out on this game. So probably half unit, quarter unit if I'm allocating them, as opposed to 1 half and a half.
Yeah, I have a Dodgers World Series ticket from before the playoffs when we were getting a good price on them. I hadn't dabbled in the pennant market. Probably now is the time to buy in there. All right, on to today's game. Again, really nice pitching matchup here. Sanchez was really good in game 1. You know, they ended up losing. The bullpen blew it behind him. But I'm interested in your Sanchez prop here. I know you've got 2 pitcher props and a game total here to bet. I've got a couple hitter props, but the one pitcher prop that I targeted was Christopher Sanchez under 17.5 outs at minus 135. He got pulled right at 17 outs in that game 1. Again, I just think as much of an ace as Sanchez is, as dominant as he can be, we get in these close situations in the 4th, 5th, 6th inning. Rob Thompson's not going to be afraid to pull that hook, just again because their season's on the line. It's essentially all hands on deck. With the exception of probably Luzardo, who starts a potential game 5. So I think that at just minus 135, under 17.5 outs is a good bet here. I'm curious your angle on taking Sanchez's strikeouts instead, as well as your other couple bets.
Yeah, so Mark Wagner is not a pitcher-friendly umpire. It's part of the reason I like the over in this matchup, and also the reason why I like the under on both pitcher strikeout props. His career strikeout minus walk rate for Mark Wagner is 11.4%. Major league average is 13.8%. So 2.4% below the MLB average. I just think on close pitches tonight, the pitchers are not going to get the calls that they're normally accustomed to getting. Would agree with you on 17.5 outs for Sanchez. When I checked it, it was 16.5. And I was like,
I think 1 or 2 books still have 17.5 out there as of this recording. So 16.5, I'd be also. I think 16.5 you do get plus money, but I'm much more hesitant on the 16.5 than the 17.5.
You could pick up on my energy immediately the moment I said the number. I was like, I feel like there's a tipping point right there at the 16.5, 17.5, getting exactly through 6 innings. I don't think happens, but some point in the 6th inning, I think is where the hook likely comes. So that scared me off a little bit. I'd rather have the 5.5 strikeouts under minus 115. Both the Glasnow strikeout prop and the Sanchez strikeout prop at sharp books offshore that I think are sharpening up quicker than the domestic market does. Both of these lines were juiced about 20 cents further than the domestic markets towards the under. So I think the unders are the right side on both. Sanchez under 5.5, Glasnow under 5.5. You can get plus money on Glasnow. I would take that down to plus 105. You can get Sanchez around minus 115. I'd take that up to around minus 130 on those pitcher props. Now, I do project runs in this game. I make the total about 8.25. I bet over 7.5 last night. It is moving towards the 8. There are still some 7.5s out there at minus 120. I would bet those. I would take 8 at even money, or try to wait for a live over 7 during the game as well. But there's a few things here pointing to the over. Number 1, this is a day game at Dodger Stadium. The ball just carries better in LA during the day than it does at night. You look at StatCast park factors, rolling park factors over the past 3 seasons, and then even going back further, Dodger Stadium, about a 4% boost during the day, a 2% boost at night in terms of run scoring environment. So an additional 2% because they're probably playing during the day with warmer weather. It's going to be 81 degrees at first pitch today, max of 84 real feel. 5 to 6 mile an hour winds blowing out to right field. And then again, the umpire, Mark Wagner, one of the most profitable over umpires in our database, or actually, I shouldn't say one of the most profitable. That was the guy from yesterday, but Hudson, career 52% to the over, is a profitable over umpire. And as I said, that strikeout minus walk rate number actually makes him one of the more over-friendly umpires in my model. Not necessarily like the most profitable guy for his career. Again, 51.8%. He is profitable to the over, not blindly profitable necessarily, but definitely a hitter-friendly boost in my model. The next thing pointing to the over here, Chris Sanchez's home road splits. Sanchez for his career, about a 2.8 expected FIP. at home, 354 on the road. Strikeout minus walk rate about 21% at home, 12% on the road. And then in 2025, expected FIP again about 0.6 of a run higher. He's faced the Dodgers a couple of times this season, faced them in mid-September, gave up 4 runs over 7 innings. Those did not come late. Those came in the middle of his start. Glasnow hasn't really thrown a ton of late, just 4 2/3 innings total since September 20th. He did throw earlier in this series, gave up 2 walks, 2 hits across 2 innings. You've seen a performance dip from Glasnow this year as well. He was in the 2s essentially last year. He's gone up to the 3s. This year, expected FIP of 3.7, strikeout minus walk rate of 17%. That's down like 8% from last year. Stuff is down. Bot ERA is up. So Sanchez way worse on the road than he is at home. Glasnow just down this year and also not necessarily finely tuned because he's been sitting in the bullpen for the large part of the last 2 weeks and threw a couple of innings. So yeah, I think both starters could potentially struggle here. They're not getting a pitcher-friendly umpire whatsoever. It's hitter-friendly weather. I definitely like runs in this matchup. So over to 8 at minus 105 between Phillies and Dodgers. And then if you can't find the pregame over, I would wait for a live over 7.
Yeah, like runs here. I love Mark Wegner references because it just makes me think of Hawk Harrelson going, "What are you doing, Wegner?" when he threw Mark Burley out of a baseball game, 100 years ago. But I've got a couple hitter props here. Coincides with the over. Could lead to some nice parlay situations. They are not long shot parlays by any means here long shot props here because I'm looking at Shohei Ohtani today. I think this is a situation where we're getting a pretty decent price on some of his hitter props. He's only 1 for 14 this series. He's 4 for 23 to start the playoffs. Of course, 2 of those 4 hits have been home runs. Ohtani is one of only 3 Dodgers hitters in this projected lineup who hit 2 of Sanchez's 3 offerings at an above average clip. The other 2, Will Smith, if he starts, and Miguel Rojas, they hit Sanchez's changeup and slider fairly well, but not his sinker. Ohtani critically hits the sinker. Sanchez could just pepper Ohtani with changeups. Ohtani's 4 for 19 lifetime off Sanchez. All 4 of those hits have been singles. But I think that the career splits, the lefty-lefty matchup, and the mini slump that Ohtani's coming in all mean we're getting him at a bit of a discount today. I'm also thinking about taking a stab on him in the steals market. We hit Trey Turner, stolen base, last night. Ohtani's only 0 for 2 in stolen base attempts in his career. Of course, that encompasses last year and this year. He went 20 for 26 during the regular season. I think if he gets on base early here, he might look to jumpstart the offense. And we're getting really good odds here because, again, slump, facing a lefty, and the fact that he doesn't have a ton of career success against Sanchez. So I've got Ohtani 2+ bases, plus 120. Ohtani to hit a home run, plus 320. And Ohtani to steal a base at plus 700. Again, it's a lefty-lefty matchup, but you don't become as successful of a hitter as Shohei Ohtani without being able to hit left-handed pitching. He does plenty, so I like his chances here against Sanchez or, whoever he faces out of the Philly bullpen later in the game. The other hitter prop I like here is I'm going back to the well with Trey Turner. I'm not betting his stolen base today. Again, we cashed a really nice plus 550 stolen base prop on Turner yesterday. Funny thing about that stolen base is he wasn't even the primary base stealer on that play. We cashed our bet on the back end of a double steal. He was the guy on first. Stott was on second.
It's my favorite way to cash a stolen base bet.
It's didn't even induce a throw. No sweat there at all. But his stolen base prop has dropped after stealing a base last two nights. It's about plus 300 for him to steal a base tonight, so don't see as much value there. But we are going back to his total bases. We're going back to his home run prop tonight. Glasnow's a 4-pitch pitcher. All 4 of those pitches he throws at least 20% of the time. He's really good at mixing his arsenal. That's one of the reasons that he's as good of a pitcher as he is. But of the Phillies' projected starting lineup tonight, Trey Turner's the only one who grades out above his expectations against 3 of those 4 pitches. He hits well against the 4-seamer, the slider, and the sinker. That's particularly notable when the pitch that's missing from those 3 of 4 is the curveball. That's only Glasnow's 3rd most used pitch. And as a breaking ball, it's not one he can really just spam to Turner over and over again. He's got to use his fastballs. He's got to use his other other pitches here. So I really like Turner here. We'll jump back on his bandwagon tonight. We can get him 2+ bases at plus 142 and another shot at him hitting a home run at plus 600. In terms of a parlay, been looking at a couple different options here. You really talked me into both of these strikeout props. I was just going to throw one of them in there. But we could just basically go with an all offense prop here. It's all highly correlated. Over 8. We go with the under on strikeouts on both Glasnow and Sanchez. And we bet on Ohtani and Turner to both record at least 2 total bases. Stay away from the homers. Stay away from the big plus money props. But we throw those 5 together. It's plus 1,700 over at DraftKings for our Phillies-Dodgers SGP. Before we continue, we have a special promo for those of you who are thinking of getting Action Pro. For just a limited time, you can get 33% off a monthly subscription. So for the price of a week, you can get a month's worth of access. You get our NFL prop experts like Sean Kerner and Nick Giffen's picks instantly to always get the best number. Plus, with MLB playoffs nightly and college football in full swing, now is a great time to experience all that Action Pro has to offer. Sean Zerillo has even said as much in this podcast. When these markets open for the playoffs the night before, Sean bets these totals, gets the 8s when a half hour later they're 7.5, gets the 7s when a half hour later they're 6.5. If you were on Cubs Brewers last night, it was a push, which was frustrating, but the 7 opened on Brewers Cubs total. It closed at 6.5 and it ended on 7. You get yourself a push instead of a loss. You can get yourself a win instead of a push, etc. By subscribing to Action Pro, you get those instant pick alerts, which are so incredibly useful. All you have to do is head over to actionnetwork.com/pro today. You get 33% off a monthly subscription. All right, Cubs Brewers, game 4 at Wrigley Field. This is a unique one to handicap right now because as of this recording, we do not have confirmation on who either starting pitcher is. We are I'm assuming from my handicap standpoint, Sean, I know you'll talk a little bit more about this, that it's going to be a rematch of game 1, Matthew Boyd against Freddie Peralta. They're both on 4 days rest. Matthew Boyd might be even a little bit more rested because he only threw for about a half hour in game 1 before getting knocked out of that one. I've got a lot of hitter props in this one, Sean. Talk a little bit through your process of this one, the handicap, the different options we could potentially see and how that plays into your handicap of this total.
Yeah, this is another total I beat by a half run. Bet 7.5. It's already 7 market wide. Third straight game in this series that I bet the under, and the market ended up betting it as well. So I'm glad to see that the market continues to directionally push this series under. These teams can't stop fucking scoring in the first inning. It is unbelievable. And then nobody scores after that. Yesterday, if you were not watching the game, the Brewers got their run in the first inning on a sun-driven pop-up that nobody camped under with first and second and 1 out. And because nobody camped under it, the umpires never called the infield fly rule. So that led to a bases-loaded situation and a sac fly. And ultimately, the game ended up pushing on 7 or beat your under 6.5. And I do apologize about that. It sucks. We've been on the right side of the market movement in both of the first 2 games of the series and are again here. The only way we won't be on the right side of the market movement is if Freddie Peralta does not start this game. Because if he doesn't, I would expect it to go back up to 7.5 because you're likely getting Robert Gasser as your primary bulk reliever for the Brewers. At that point, they used Chad Patrick, Jose Quintana, Anderson for multiple innings yesterday. They used Koenig and Mears for the 3rd time in the series. So McGill and Uribe are fresh. Gasser's fresh. That to me means you kind of got to go back to Freddie Peralta tonight. Now, Peralta does have home road splits this year. For his career, he's much more neutral. But this year, expected FIP about 0.6 of a run higher on the road, 415 versus 3.6. Strikeout minus walk rate, 22% at home, 16% on the road. So he has been a better pitcher at home versus on the road. And also, if you save him for game 5 and you win today, he gets to start game 1 of the NLCS for you on full rest. If he pitches today, he's not going to be available for game 1 either way. So there are incentives to try to win the game without Freddie Peralta. I just don't think they have the arms to do it and to bullpen it all the way again we discussed before we hopped on, probably Peralta today. And then you go back to the game 2 pitching plan on Friday. Ashby, Mizorowski, you just combine those guys over and over again. Patrick and Anderson should be good to go by then again. McGill and Uribe should still be fresh for that game. So I think it does make the most sense to start Peralta today, go back to a bullpen game in game 5. The Cubs, it's not as surprising that they haven't announced the starter yet. I thought it was curious that Pat Murphy wouldn't announce a starter last night. That almost means to me like it's not going to be Peralta. The Cubs obviously have a lot more options because of how bad Boyd was in game 1. Soroka,
a lot of bad options, to be clear.
A lot of bad options. A lot of bad options. When you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have any. When you have 3 bad starting pitchers or 3 bad openers, you don't have any. Matt Boyd, Mike Soroka, Aaron Savale all pitched in game 1. I think you get some combination of those guys tonight. It's really just a matter of which order they come out of the bullpen in. Palencia, Pomeranz have only pitched 2 times in this series. They should still be good tonight. Keller threw 2 innings yesterday, or 1 1/3. Only threw 19 pitches. So the Cubs bullpen's good to go. The Brewers bullpen is actually a little bit sketchier, which is why I want Peralta starting this game if I have the under. The other weird thing about this game, it's a 9:08 Eastern time start in Chicago. This game is taking place before the Phillies-Dodgers game, which is in LA. I don't know why. I don't know why at all.
Yeah, after.
After. The Dodgers game is being played at 3 p.m. Eastern, a 6:08, or 3 p.m. Local time, a 6 o'clock Eastern start. This game is being played east of that in Chicago at 8:08 Central time. Going back to 2005, there have only been 5 total Cubs games at Wrigley that have started after 8 p.m. Central time. Very, very rare. 5-1 to the under in those games. 5 of those 6 games came in the postseason. 4-1 in those postseason games. And the temperatures are going to be cold tonight because they're starting so freaking late. It's going to be 56 degrees at first pitch. No real wind impact, a 6-mile-an-hour cross breeze, but it's going to be cold on that field tonight, which does reduce the scoring environment pretty drastically. You also have Lance Barksdale, who I said before Wegner, one of the most profitable over umpires, and I then corrected myself that wasn't the case. It was in my head because Barksdale is the 3rd most profitable under umpire in our database since 2005. 54.4% to the under, a 5.4% ROI over that span, though his strikeout minus walk rate is neutral. If anything, hitter leading. He's below the major league average as well. So he actually projects, even though he's one of our most profitable umpires for the under, Barksdale actually projects closer to a neutral umpire in terms of my impact on the game. But with that said, I still make the total around 6.5, assuming, again, Peralta versus Boyd or Peralta versus Ray or Peralta versus Soroka, whoever Peralta versus anybody, make it about 6.5, under 7 to -110. This came down from 7.5. And again, another game where you could potentially just fire a live under because they're going to score 8 runs in the first inning and our under will lose. And then you can grab a live under 17.5 in the first inning.
Yeah, this weather forecast is interesting. I think that the projections that we're seeing on, Roto Grinders and other places are maybe a little too high on what this weather's looking like. Like, I just live a couple miles from Wrigley, and at 7 p.m., my forecast says it's going to be 53 degrees, and it's only going to go down from there. We could see a situation where this game is being played the late innings in the 40s. So
yeah, it has the real feel at 52 at first pitch today on Swish. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's low 50s, high 40s as opposed to even high 50s.
Yeah. Should mention, didn't mention the line there at the top. The Brewers are favored here tonight, -118, Cubs -103. That'll obviously change a lot. If we have any surprises out of the starting pitching, again, the Brewers are a really, really smart organization, and if they're not starting Peralta today, I almost kind of just wanted to be like, all right, you guys know best, but I just can't fathom an ideal situation where Peralta isn't the starting pitcher tonight. Like, if he doesn't start and they win, yeah, he can start game 1 of the NLCS. If he does start and they win, he can still start game 2 of the NLCS, which some people say is even better because then he can go 2-6 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if they hold him back for a potential game 5, that's very surprising. I don't know if it's a Wrigley thing. I guess he's kind of a fly ball pitcher. Maybe they want him starting at AmFam, but We shall see. This is one of those very important times again to monitor the pitching plans, the announcements. Follow Sean in the app, get those instant pick alerts, because if things change, bets will change, and we will go from there. I have a lot of hitter props I like in this, which is funny to say in a game where we expect it to be an under. But as we've said before, we can hit hitter props and we can hit unders. More than 0 runs will be scored in the game. We're going to take a stab at a couple of opportunities for those runs to be scored. For Milwaukee, I just like one hitter. I like him a lot. It is my old friend Andrew Vaughn, particularly if Matthew Boyd is on the mound tonight. Boyd is a 5-pitch pitcher, really just a 4-pitch pitcher. He's used a sinker about 3.7% of the time this season. He's got 4 main offerings. He throws anywhere between 11 and 46% of the time. Andrew Vaughn performs above expectation on all 4 of those offerings. The 4-seamer, the changeup, the slider, the curveball. Vaughn can hit him, especially against the left-handed pitcher. Vaughn did face Boyd just once in that short game 1 outing. He drew a walk. So he'll get more opportunities here today. Vaughn has faced Boyd 12 times in his career, has just 3 hits. All 3 of those hits have been of the extra base variety, 2 doubles and a home run. So I really like Vaughn props tonight. I think that we're getting really good price on these 2+ bases plus 140, and Vaughn to hit a home run plus 630, which is very high for a guy with power like that playing at Wrigley Field. Again, a lot of experience at that park as well from the Crosstown series and now his time in Milwaukee. There's a trio of guys I like on the Cubs side. So we'll split this bet up a couple different ways. Obviously really small wagers here to try to maximize our profit on these 3 guys. There are 3 Cubs hitters who perform above expectation against Freddie Peralta's top 2 pitches, his 4-seamer and his changeup. Michael Busch, Nico Hoerner, Seiya Suzuki. I'll take a dip on all 3 in the bases and homers market. Small bets with the increased volume here. The Busch prices are obviously nerfed a little bit with him hitting 2 leadoff homers in this series. Hoerner has already hit a homer in this series, but will still pay the best if he goes deep, given that he only had 7 during the regular season. Seiya Suzuki's been a 2+ bases, over 1.5 total base machine in this series. He had a double last night that cashed us a bases prop. We'll go back to the well there. Hope he can cash us. A couple of these guys cash their bases. We're looking at a profit. Obviously, the homers are more of a long shot stab. So Hoerner's bases are 125, Busch and Suzuki plus 145, and then the home runs market, Busch plus 525, Suzuki plus 563, and Hoerner 15-1, the longest of long shot there, obviously.
So, obviously anecdotal. Of those 3, I think I prefer Seiya just based on his plate approach. Hoerner definitely much more of like, poke the other way, contact guy. You might need 2 hits out of him.
Yes.
Busch is Walker homer. That is his whole goal at the plate. Walker homer. He's Max Muncy.
Yes.
Seiya.
I did consider the walk prop on both Vaughn and Busch tonight as well.
But that's all Busch is. He's a good leadoff hitter. It's like batting Max Muncy leadoff, but he has like almost. I don't know how much he was able to work with Muncy. When he was a Dodger, how much time they spent together, if any at all. But he's like a Muncy clone at the plate. It's uncanny. But Seiya swings violently. And Seiya is trying to do damage every time he swings the bat. I really like Seiya. I've enjoyed watching him grow into the player he was meant to be.
Yeah.
But that dude's looking to make damage. Anytime he swings the bat, he's swinging for double or homer. So I just based upon
without just being a pure pull hitter either. Like he can do it to the opposite field as well as anyone too.
Yeah, he's got a violent swing, and when the pitch is in the zone, he's putting the A swing on it every time. So if I'm targeting a guy who's going to hunt 2 bases, it's Seiya.
So for a parlay here, we get some nice extra boost on the juice here by going under with some offensive props, unlike the Dodgers game where we had to throw 5 props in there, all correlated to get to like 16-1. If we go under 7 here, I'll throw the Suzuki basis prop in there because you said that's the one you like the best of my props. Sure. And then I just have to throw Andrew Vaughn homer in there because I just feel like if there's one Brewer here who's going to hit a big homer in a big spot, it's Andrew Vaughn. So under Suzuki basis, Vaughn homer, 65-1 parlay over at DraftKings.
And just as a reminder, there's no wind knocking balls down tonight. I said it'll be cold, which will suppress offense, but that doesn't mean that if you hit a deep fly ball, you're going to hit it into the teeth of the wind to get it knocked down. It will play fair in terms of the home run factor.
Yes. So we've got a 17-1 parlay on Phillies Dodgers, 5 legs, and we have a 65-1 parlay, 3 legs on Cubs Brewers. We've hit one or two of our parlays this playoffs. Obviously, the longer shot, the less likely. But if one of those comes through, a little extra fun couch change to throw down as we're betting the postseason tonight. That'll do it though for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets from today's episode, look for the quick slip links in the episode description, or visit actionnetwork.com/betnow. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app, and also please leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Finally, check out our new AI quick slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook at Playbook. Tell it to grab whatever bet you're looking for. It'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. We will be back tomorrow, and any day that there's a game during the regular season. We have Mariners-Tigers Game 5 confirmed for Friday. We will be breaking that down. If we have Game 5s in either of these National League series, they will be Saturday, so we can maybe try to give you an early look at those and how we're betting those as well. But we will be back tomorrow, at the very least, breaking down Mariners-Tigers Game 5. For Sean Zerillo, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, and good luck with all of your bets.